My grandmother always told me there were monsters in this world, and I was soon to find out. It started when my mother died. She was the highly paid engineer and breadwinner for the family. My stay-at-home dad had to get a job as a cashier at the local Walmart, and I soon dropped out of high school to do the same. We sold the house in a bad turn of the market, and when all was said and done, we had enough to buy a trailer and a small plot of land to go with it. It was the most liberating thing in my life. I used to lay around in my bed on my phone, worrying if I had the right designer purse. Now I would spend nights in front of a campfire on our little lot of land, drinking cheap rum with my father. There are no grades, no college applications, no proms. It was getting blackout drunk and finding out I hooked up with some guy in a neighboring lot, and then puking my guts out and trying to get half sober for my next shift. It was hard to worry about the amount of drinking I was doing. This was meth country, and the thought it's just alcohol could quiet any voice in the back of my head. And if that ever failed, there was always more to drink. I bet most of my classmates would find 100 reasons to be miserable living here, but I like it. I dreamt one day that I could take this show on the road, but for now, things were as good as they could be. At least, until I got suspicious. It started innocently enough. While Dad was out, I was digging through some boxes we had in the corner. I don't even remember what I was looking for anymore. I opened a box, and in it, on top of some torn clothing, was jewelry. Cheap Walmart stuff, clearly worn, no tags. These were nothing my mother would have ever worn. She liked small, expensive pieces, not large copper bracelets. I also hadn't seen my dad be with anyone who would ever wear these. He never brought anyone home to the RV, aside from finding them, or maybe winning them in a card game. I could not possibly imagine why we would have these. I started looking at the clothing next. They were women's clothing, laundried and neatly folded, but a few looked like the washing machine didn't like them on a personal level. One blouse had it particularly bad, almost in shreds, maybe something you would imagine from an industrial accident. I looked closer at the blouse. Whoever washed these didn't seem to care about colors. There was so much bleach used that every dye ran, and all saturation was gone. The clothing items stained each other, and I couldn't imagine anyone keeping them for anything but rags. Then, I saw a shirt that may have once been white, and found a stain they were trying to get out. It was a large, light brown stain across much of the shirt. Looking back at the clothing, many had it. I had done laundry for myself enough times to know that this was blood. It took me a quarter of a handle to come to a decision. I was just going to confront my father and find out what was going on. There was probably a perfectly good explanation for this. Maybe he took it home after getting deer blood on somebody's laundry, promising to get the stains out, and hid them instead of cleaning them. He destroyed it. When he got home from his shift, I let him get 2 drinks in before holding out the bracelets in my hand. Do you know what these are? My father wasn't a man of many skills, and lying was also not one of them. No. Some bracelets? I've never seen them. His pupils were narrow, and his hands were slightly shaking. I found them in the camper. Oh, that. He scanned around with his eyes. I bought a blind box at an estate sale. I was going to resell it. Turned out to be garbage. I should go give that guy a piece of my mind. He told me there's at least $100 of stuff in there. Oh, I said, walking away. I guess I'll just keep them? I thought they weren't your style. Oh, I don't know. I think they'll make me fit in better with the rest of the trailer crowd. I wasn't going to wear them. Bad enough my fingerprints were now all over that stuff. I considered calling the cops, but I didn't know to what end. I watched my dad get drunk extra fast that night and walk off to his bed. I stayed up most of the night trying to think about what to do next. Every time I thought I had a coherent thought, it led me back to my mother. I never properly grieved for her. Life became a hurricane overnight. It wasn't until I had this dirt under my feet that I had time to mourn. Did that car accident push my father over the edge? Was he now some sort of serial killer? I thought you had to be good at something to do that. At least, to kill more than once and not get caught. There were at least 5 people's clothes in that box. Strip the bodies, remove identifying marks, wash out the blood. Don't throw the clothes away, so you can keep them as some sort of trophy. Or maybe not to give a lead to the cops. Being so meticulous, that was more like Mom than Dad. Mom. I suddenly got the thought solidified in my head. The thought that was hiding from my grasp all this time. What if he killed Mom? It was a car accident. That must be a great way to hide stab wounds. In the morning, I called off sick from work and headed to the local library. I knew the accident made the local papers, but never had the heart to read the article. I no longer had that privilege. I was glad I didn't do it back then. Whatever happened that day was kept from me. It wasn't a simple accident. My father was driving. The car rolled off the road. There was a hill and they tumbled over 50 feet before being caught on some tree. They were both stunned and trapped in the vehicle. It wasn't the rail or the fall that killed my mother. It was hours before someone spotted them from the road. Hours before help came. In that time, animals my dad described as coyotes found the car. He was more safe, being on the side of the car against the ground. But my mother, her broken door was easy to access. They ate her alive. Something like that. I'm sure it could mess up anyone, turn them to murder. But what if that wasn't what happened? What if my father was some sort of monster? The article mentioned many times how it was all so freaky. It wasn't the way coyotes behaved. They weren't even common to the area. What if he was one of those things my grandmother sometimes talked about? On some nights, walking the world as half man, half beast, killing and devouring his prey. It was so crazy, but for some reason, it felt so right. I could so clearly picture the jaws tearing apart human flesh as the woman screamed. The woman, and my mother. It was like there was no other answer. Like my grandmother was trying to warn me with her stories. They were real, and they were in my family. That night, when my father got home, I greeted him with our rifle and a loaded clip. I know what you did to my mother, and those other women, I said, pointing the barrel right at him. Princess. He sat down on the steps of the RV, a little too unconcerned about the loaded gun. Don't, I'm not 9. Tell me, I need to know. You killed them. Princess, do you remember where you were the night of the accident? I was home. I didn't know where he was going. Was he buying time? Was he going to turn into a monster the moment my gun wavered and tear my throat out? Do you remember being there? No, I didn't. The night was a haze. You weren't home. It was your 18th birthday. We were coming back from dinner. What? You were in the hospital for a week. I couldn't have been in that car. We didn't know. My father looked at me pleading. We didn't know. We thought it skipped your generation. What? The rifle was shaking in my hand. The images of the women he killed came clearer and clearer in my mind. We didn't know you carried lycanthropy. You shifted right there in the car. I was in so much shock. I drove off the road. I shifted? I could taste the blood in my mouth, the raw human meat. I could feel the pleasure of tearing out someone's throat. I did so much. I told them it was wild animals. I covered for you. I always cover for you. I always followed you, found the remains, hid the evidence. How do I... You started drinking. It helped. It helped curb you, and it covered up when you did go out with the blackouts. This is why we moved here. It's easy to hide it here. People go missing all the time. I dropped the gun. I knew from my nails to my teeth, from my claws to my fangs. I knew it was true. So now, you know too. I had to tell someone. What are you gonna do about it? You don't know my name or where I live. I can't do anything about it either. I can just wake up in the middle of the night, not knowing if the taste in my mouth is vomit or blood, to know that the beast in me has killed and will kill again, to slowly feel it consuming my being and my sanity, until there is no human left in this skin, and to know there is nothing anyone can do short of my death.